I don't even know where to start, so I guess I'll jump right in. My name's Daniel, 40, and my wife, Emma, 36, and I have been married for 10 years. We have two kids, Ellie, 8, and Max, 5, and live in what I thought was the perfect little life. Emma is an artist, really talented, and has been making a career out of it ever since we got married. I've always been the logical one, working as a financial advisor, keeping everything steady so Emma could follow her passion. We weren't flashy or extravagant, but I thought we were happy. We had our routines, our inside jokes, and our family traditions. For years, I thought we were solid. Then, a few months ago, everything changed. It all started so subtly that looking back, I almost feel stupid for not noticing earlier. Emma began spending more time in her studio. That wasn't unusual. Art has always been her escape, but this time, it was different. She'd go in after dinner and not come out until long after I'd gone to bed. When I'd ask about it, she'd give me the same answer every time. It's this huge commission, Daniel. It could be a game changer for my career. I wanted to believe her. She's incredibly passionate about her work, and I've always supported that. But she wasn't acting like herself. She'd forget things, school events, playdates, and brush it off with an apology and a distracted smile. Our conversations got shorter, and her phone, well, it was always in her hand. She used to leave it lying around the house, but now it was glued to her side. "Is everything okay?" I asked one night after the kids were asleep. She was lying in bed next to me, scrolling through something on her phone. "You've seemed distant lately," I said carefully. She sighed, turning off her phone and setting it on the nightstand. "I'm just tired," she said. "This project is eating up all my energy. It's nothing to worry about." Her words were reassuring, but her tone wasn't. She sounded defensive, almost annoyed that I'd even asked. A few weeks later, things took a sharper turn. It was a Friday night, and the kids were staying at Emma's sister's place for a sleepover. I got off work early, thinking I'd surprise her. Maybe we'd order takeout, open a bottle of wine, and have some time to ourselves. When I walked into the house, it was eerily quiet. The lights were off in most of the rooms, but her studio door was closed, and I could see the faint glow of her desk lamp beneath it. "Emma?" I called out as I set my bag down. No answer. I walked closer and heard her voice. She was on the phone, speaking quietly but urgently. "He doesn't suspect anything," she said, her tone low. "We just have to be careful." I froze in the hallway. My heart started pounding. What doesn't he suspect? Was she talking about me? Before I could process it, the door creaked and she stepped out. Her eyes widened for a split second when she saw me, but she quickly recovered. "Oh," she said lightly, slipping her phone into her pocket. "You're home early." "Yeah," I said, trying to sound normal. "Who were you talking to?" "Just a client," she replied smoothly, brushing past me and heading for the kitchen. "Nothing important." She didn't even pause. It was so casual, so practiced, that for a moment I wondered if I was imagining things. But I wasn't. I knew what I'd heard. The next day, Emma told me she was going on an art retreat for the weekend. It wasn't unusual for her to take trips like this. She said they helped her clear her head and find inspiration. But something about the timing felt off. "You'll be gone the whole weekend?" I asked as she packed her bags. "It's just 2 nights," she said. "I'll be back Sunday evening." I nodded, but the unease in my chest didn't go away. While she was gone, I decided to clean up her studio. I told myself it was a nice gesture, something to show her I cared, but really I was hoping to find answers. As I sorted through her supplies, I found a stack of sketches buried beneath a pile of papers. At first, I thought they were just part of her project, rough drafts of whatever commission she was working on. But then I saw them. The sketches weren't landscapes or abstract pieces. They were portraits, intimate, detailed drawings of a man I didn't recognize. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and strikingly handsome, with sharp features and piercing eyes. Each sketch seemed to capture him in a moment of vulnerability, smiling softly, looking wistful, or staring directly at the viewer. My hands shook as I flipped through them. These weren't just drawings. They were personal. My mind raced with questions. Who was this man? And why was Emma drawing him with such intensity? When she came home Sunday night, I couldn't hold it in any longer. "Who is he?" I asked, holding up one of the sketches as she unpacked her bags. Her face went pale. "What are you talking about?" "The man," I said, my voice tight. "The one you've been drawing. Who is he?" Her eyes darted to the sketch, then back to me. For a moment, she looked genuinely stunned. But then her expression hardened. He's a model, she said flatly. For the commission I'm working on. It's nothing personal. Nothing personal? I repeated, my voice rising. Emma, look at these. These aren't just sketches. You've drawn him like he's important to you. She crossed her arms, her jaw tightening. You're overreacting, she said. It's art, Daniel. Don't turn this into something it's not. Her words stung, but what hurt more was the cold, dismissive tone in her voice. After our confrontation, Emma retreated to her studio, leaving me alone in the kitchen with the sketch still in my hands. Her words echoed in my mind. It's nothing personal. But how could it not be personal? These weren't just technical drawings or quick studies. The way she had captured this man's expressions, the softness in his eyes, the faint curve of his lips, felt almost intimate. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of everything. Was I reading too much into it? Was this really just art like she said? Or was there something more going on? When I finally drifted off, it was past 3 a.m., and my dreams were filled with images of Emma and the man in her sketches, laughing together, sharing secret glances. I woke up feeling hollow. The next morning, Emma was back to her usual routine, making breakfast for the kids, chatting with Ellie about her upcoming school project. She acted like nothing had happened, like our conversation the night before hadn't even registered. Morning, she said brightly as I walked into the kitchen. Coffee's fresh. I nodded, pouring myself a cup and watching her carefully. If she noticed the tension in the air, she didn't let it show. As the kids ate their cereal, I debated whether to bring it up again. But what would I even say? She'd already brushed me off once, and I didn't want to start a fight in front of Ellie and Max. Instead, I kept quiet and watched her. Later that day, when Emma went out to run errands, I found myself back in her studio. I told myself I was looking for answers, but deep down, I think I was hoping to find proof, something to confirm my suspicions or put them to rest. I searched through her drawers and shelves, feeling like a terrible husband for snooping. But then I found it, a small notebook tucked under a pile of canvases. The first few pages were filled with sketches, flowers, landscapes, abstract shapes. But as I flipped through, the drawings became more focused, more personal. It was him again. This time, the sketches were accompanied by notes, small, scribbled phrases that made my stomach twist. The way his eyes soften when he smiles. Strong hands, gentle touch. A face that feels familiar, even though we've just met. I closed the notebook and sat down heavily in the chair. My mind was racing, but one thought kept repeating itself. This isn't just art. That night, I couldn't hold it in any longer. After the kids went to bed, I cornered Emma in the living room. We need to talk, I said, my voice tense. She looked up from her phone, frowning. About what? I held up the notebook. Her face went pale. Who is he, Emma? I asked, my voice shaking. And don't tell me he's just a model. I've seen the notes. For a moment, she said nothing. Then she sighed and leaned back against the couch, crossing her arms. His name is Liam, she said quietly. He's someone I've been working with on the commission. Working with? I repeated, my stomach tightening. What does that mean? He's the subject, she said, avoiding my eyes. I've been meeting with him to get inspiration for the piece. That's all. That's all? I said, my voice rising. Emma, you've written things about him, things you've never even said about me. Strong hands, gentle touch. What the hell is that? She looked away, her jaw tightening. You're blowing this out of proportion. Am I? I shot back, because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're obsessed with this guy. Her eyes snapped back to mine, and for the first time, I saw anger there. You don't understand, she said sharply. Liam is different. He's helped me see things about myself that I didn't even realize before. Helped you see things? I said, incredulous. Emma, you're married. We have a family. What are you even talking about? She stood up, pacing the room. I don't know, okay? She said, her voice breaking. I felt so stuck, so lost, and Liam, he makes me feel alive again. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. Alive? I said quietly. So, what does that make me? The guy you settled for? She didn't answer. Her silence said everything. It hung in the room, heavy and suffocating. I felt a sharp, cold pain in my chest, as if the air had been sucked out. Emma, the woman I thought I knew better than anyone, was standing in front of me, admitting in her own way that I wasn't enough for her anymore. "So that's it?" I asked, my voice trembling. "I'm just some guy you're stuck with, while Liam—" "What? He's your escape? Your fantasy?" "Daniel, it's not like that," she said, rubbing her temples. "Then tell me what it is," I snapped. "Because from where I'm standing, it sure as hell looks like you've already made your choice." She stopped pacing and looked at me, tears brimming in her eyes. "I don't know what I want," she said quietly. "I feel trapped, like I've been living this life that doesn't feel like mine anymore." "Trapped?" I repeated, anger boiling beneath the surface. "We have a family, Emma, a life we built together, and you're telling me you feel trapped?" Her tears spilled over, but instead of softening me, they only made me angrier. "You know what?" I said, shaking my head. "If you feel trapped, maybe you should have talked to me instead of running to some guy who makes you feel alive." "Do you think I wanted this?" she shot back, her voice rising. "Do you think I wanted to feel this way? Like I'm suffocating in my own life?" "Suffocating?" I said, incredulous. "You're the one who's been shutting me out. You're the one who's been lying to me." She flinched, and for a moment, I thought she was going to say something, but instead, she turned and walked out of the room, leaving me standing there, fists clenched and heart pounding. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in the living room, replaying the conversation over and over in my head. Her words, "I feel trapped," echoed like a broken record, filling me with equal parts rage and sadness. I didn't want to believe it, but deep down, I knew this wasn't just about Liam. This was about something deeper, something that had been festering for years without me even realizing it. The problem was I had no idea how to fix it. The next morning, Emma was already in her studio when I woke up. The door was closed, and the sound of pencil scratching against paper drifted into the hallway. I didn't bother knocking. I didn't know what to say to her, and honestly, I wasn't sure I wanted to hear more excuses. Instead, I decided to dig deeper. If Emma wouldn't give me answers, I'd find them myself. Later that day, while she was out running errands, I went back to her studio. I wasn't proud of it, but I needed to know the truth. I found her sketchbook again, flipping through the pages with growing unease. The sketches of Liam were even more detailed than I remembered, and the notes alongside them were more intimate. The way he really listens, how his laughter fills the room. There's a lightness about him, like he carries no weight at all. My stomach churned. I could almost feel her infatuation bleeding through the pages. But then I found something else, an envelope tucked inside the back cover of the sketchbook. It was addressed to Emma, the handwriting unfamiliar. I hesitated for a moment, my hands trembling, before pulling out the letter inside. "Emma, I know this isn't easy for you. I can see the conflict in your eyes every time we meet, but I also see how alive you are when we're together. You don't have to keep pretending, Emma. You deserve to be happy, even if that means letting go of the life you've built. I'll be here, waiting for you when you're ready. Liam." I stared at the letter, my mind racing. This wasn't just some innocent muse-artist relationship. Liam was pushing her, encouraging her to leave me. My hands clenched in a fist as I shoved the letter back into the envelope. This wasn't just betrayal anymore. This was someone actively trying to tear my family apart. After finding Liam's letter, I was consumed by a storm of emotions. Anger, heartbreak, betrayal. It wasn't just Emma anymore, it was him. He was trying to dismantle my family, and the worst part was she seemed to be letting him. I waited for Emma to come home, the envelope sitting on the coffee table like a ticking time bomb. When she walked in, her cheerful "Hey, I'm back" died in her throat the moment she saw my face. "What's wrong?" she asked cautiously. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I picked up the envelope and held it out to her. "What's this?" I asked, my voice tight. Her eyes widened as she recognized it, her face draining of color. "Where did you?" "Does it matter?" I snapped. "What I want to know is why Liam is writing you love letters, telling you to leave your family." She opened her mouth, then closed it again, clearly scrambling for an explanation. "It's not what you think," she said finally, her voice trembling. I laughed bitterly. "Really? Because it sure looks like he's waiting for you to pack your bags and run off into the sunset with him." "Daniel, please." I cut her off, standing up. "You don't get to please me, Emma. I've stood here trying to understand, trying to give you the benefit of the doubt. And this is what you've been hiding." Tears streamed down her face, but I didn't care. I felt like a dam had burst inside me, months of frustration and pain flooding out all at once. "You let him come between us. I said, my voice cracking. You let him turn you against me, against our family. And for what? Because he makes you feel alive? What the hell does that even mean? Emma sank onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. I didn't mean for it to get this far, she whispered. I didn't. Then why didn't you stop? I demanded. Why didn't you tell him to back off? I don't know, she cried. I don't know what I'm doing, Daniel. I'm so confused. And he makes everything feel so simple. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I wanted to scream at her, to shake her out of whatever spell Liam had cast over her. But instead, I turned and walked out of the room. That night, I slept in the guest room. Or rather, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing. Emma's tears, her words, her betrayal. They played on a loop in my head over and over again. At some point, I got up and checked on the kids. They were sound asleep, oblivious to the chaos unfolding in the other part of the house. I sat on Ellie's bed for a while, stroking her hair and wondering how I was supposed to protect them from this. The next day, I decided I needed to know more about Liam. If Emma wouldn't tell me the truth, I'd find it myself. I started by searching his name online, but it was surprisingly hard to find anything concrete. No social media, no professional profiles, nothing that would give me a clear picture of who he was. It was like he didn't exist outside of Emma's world. Frustrated, I decided to drive to the address on the letter. I knew it was a risk, but I couldn't sit around doing nothing. The address led me to a small, upscale apartment complex on the edge of the city. I parked across the street and waited, unsure of what I was even looking for. After about an hour, the front door opened, and there he was, Liam. He looked exactly like Emma's sketches, tall, confident, and annoyingly handsome. He was carrying a bag of groceries, his stride relaxed, as if he didn't have a care in the world. I wanted to march across the street and confront him, but something held me back. Instead, I watched as he disappeared inside, my fists clenched tightly around the steering wheel. When I got home, Emma was in the kitchen, making dinner as if everything was normal. "Did you see him?" she asked without turning around. Her question stopped me in my tracks. "What?" I said slowly. She turned to face me, her eyes red and puffy from crying. "I saw your car when I left Liam's building," she said quietly. "I figured you'd go back to check him out." The air seemed to leave the room. "You were there?" I said, my voice shaking. "I told him it was over," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I told him I couldn't do this anymore. I barely slept that night." The photo, the cryptic email, and Emma's continued deceit swirled in my mind like a storm I couldn't escape. It wasn't just her lies anymore. There was someone else involved, someone who seemed intent on exposing her. Who was it? And why did they care? The next morning, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my laptop. The sender of the email had used a generic Gmail address, and when I tried to trace it, I hit a dead end. But I wasn't about to let it go. Emma came downstairs, clearly nervous. She glanced at me, but didn't say anything, busying herself with the coffee maker. "Do you know who sent me the email?" I asked abruptly, breaking the silence. She froze, her back to me. "What email?" I clicked on the message, spinning the laptop around so she could see. "This one, with the photo of you and Liam from 2 days ago. Do you know who took it?" She turned slowly, her face pale. "No," she said quietly. "I don't." Her voice sounded genuine, but I couldn't be sure anymore. I decided to take the investigation into my own hands. I called Elise, an old friend who worked as a private investigator. I explained everything: Emma's affair, Liam, the letter, and now this mysterious email. "This sounds like someone close to the situation," Elise said thoughtfully. "Someone who knows what's going on and wants you to know too. Could it be Liam?" I frowned. "Why would he send me something that makes him look bad?" "Not him then," Elise mused. "But maybe someone connected to him or Emma. Have you checked her phone or email for anything unusual?" I hesitated. I'd already invaded Emma's privacy by searching her studio. Did I really want to go through her phone? But desperation won out. While Emma was out picking up the kids, I unlocked her laptop using the password I'd guessed years ago and opened her email. At first, it was the usual messages from clients, school updates, art newsletters. But then I found a folder labeled personal. Inside were dozens of emails between Emma and Liam. "Liam, I can't stop thinking about you. When can I see you again?" "Emma, soon." I just need to figure out a way to get away without raising suspicion. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the exchanges. Some were flirty, others heartfelt, but one in particular made my blood run cold. Liam, he's not right for you, Emma. You deserve better than this. Emma, I know, but it's complicated. Complicated? That's how she described our marriage? But then I saw something else, a single email that stood out from the rest. It wasn't from Liam. It was from someone named Amelia. Amelia, does Daniel know about us? About Liam? You're playing a dangerous game, Emma. If you're not careful, it's all going to blow up in your face. Us? Who is Amelia? And how is she connected to all of this? When Emma came home, I confronted her. Who's Amelia? I asked, holding up her phone. Her face turned white. Where did you see that? It doesn't matter, I said coldly. Who is she, Emma? And what does she mean by US? Emma hesitated, her hands trembling. Amelia is Liam's sister, she admitted. Sister? I repeated, stunned. She knows about everything, Emma said quickly. She found out about us a while ago and threatened to tell you if I didn't end it. She's the one who sent the email, Daniel, not Liam. My head was spinning. So his sister has been spying on you? Yes, Emma said, tears streaming down her face. She thinks I'm ruining Liam's life, dragging him into something he doesn't deserve. But it's not like that, Daniel. I swear. I didn't believe her. Not anymore. When Emma confessed that Amelia was Liam's sister, it felt like another blow I wasn't prepared for. The pieces began to fit together in the most twisted way imaginable. So, she's been spying on you, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. And she's the one who sent me the email. Emma nodded, her eyes glassy with tears. She's been against us from the beginning. She doesn't think Liam should be involved with me. She called it an affair of convenience. Convenience? I repeated bitterly. Well, isn't that charming? She doesn't understand, Emma said, her voice pleading. She thinks I'm using him, that I don't really care about him. But it's not like that, Daniel. I swear. I shook my head, trying to suppress the rage bubbling up inside me. What about me, Emma? What does she think I am? Collateral damage. Emma's silence spoke volumes. Later that night, while Emma was putting the kids to bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Amelia's role in this than Emma was letting on. I decided to reply to the mysterious email. Me, why did you send me this? What are you trying to accomplish? To my surprise, Amelia responded within minutes. Amelia, because you deserve to know the truth. Emma's lying to you, Daniel. She hasn't ended things with Liam. She's only saying that to keep you from finding out what's really happening. My stomach churned. I wanted to believe Emma had told me everything, that she was finally being honest. But Amelia's words planted a seed of doubt I couldn't ignore. Me, if that's true, prove it. There was a long pause before her next reply came through. Amelia, meet me tomorrow. I'll show you everything. The next morning, I drove to the cafe where Amelia had asked to meet. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I needed answers. Real answers, not the half-truths Emma had been feeding me. Amelia was already there when I arrived. She looked like Liam, tall and confident, with sharp features that seemed to cut through the air. Daniel, she said, standing as I approached. Thanks for coming. I nodded stiffly and sat down. You said you had proof. Without a word, she pulled out her phone and slid it across the table. On the screen was a video. Play it, she said. I hesitated for a moment before pressing play. The video showed Emma and Liam in what looked like his apartment. They were sitting close together on the couch, their hands intertwined. I can't keep doing this, Emma said, her voice shaky. You don't have to, Liam replied softly. You just have to make a choice, Emma. Me or him. The video ended, and I sat back, feeling like the wind had been knocked out of me. That was 3 days ago, Amelia said quietly. Do you still think she's telling you the truth? I stared at the table, my mind spinning. Emma had promised me she'd ended things with Liam, but this video proved otherwise. She was still seeing him, still torn between our family and the fantasy he represented. When I got home, Emma was waiting for me in the living room. She stood as I walked in, her face full of worry. Where were you? She asked. I met Amelia, I said bluntly. Her face fell. What did she say? She showed me a video, I replied, my voice cold. A video of you and Liam from 3 days ago. Emma's eyes widened, and she took a step back. Daniel, don't, I said, cutting her off. Don't lie to me again, Emma. I gave you every chance to come clean, to fix this, and you still chose to betray me. Tears streamed down her face, but I couldn't feel anything but anger. I didn't know she was recording us, she said desperately. I was trying to end it, Daniel. I swear. You've said that before, I snapped. And every time, you find some way to go back to him. Do you even know what you want, Emma? Or are you just waiting for someone else to decide for you? She broke down, sinking onto the couch. I don't know, she whispered. I don't know how to fix this. I stared at her, my heart breaking all over again. Maybe it's not your choice anymore, I said quietly. Maybe I need to decide what's best for me and the kids. Her sobs filled the room as I turned and walked away, feeling more lost than ever. That night, I lay awake in the guest room, staring at the ceiling. The house was quiet, except for the occasional creak of the floorboards and the faint sound of Emma crying in the other room. I felt hollow. The anger that had carried me through the past few days was gone, replaced by a deep, aching sadness. I had spent years building a life with Emma, believing in our marriage, trusting her completely. And now it felt like that life had crumbled around me, piece by piece. But one thought kept coming back to me over and over again. What about the kids? Ellie and Max were innocent in all of this. They didn't deserve to lose their family because of the choices their mother had made. I couldn't let my pain cloud what mattered most, giving them the stability and love they needed. The next morning, I asked Emma to talk after the kids had gone to school. She sat on the couch, her face pale and drawn, while I stood across from her, trying to find the words. I can't keep doing this, I said finally. I can't keep wondering if you're telling me the truth, or if you're going to go back to Liam the moment I let my guard down. Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't interrupt. I've tried to understand, I continued. I've tried to give you the benefit of the doubt, to believe that you're as confused as you say you are. But Emma, I can't trust you anymore. And without trust, there's no marriage. Her sobs broke the silence, raw and guttural. I never wanted to hurt you, she said. I love you, Daniel. I love our family. Then why? I asked, my voice cracking. Why wasn't that enough for you? She looked down at her hands, shaking her head. I don't know, she whispered. I wish I did. We decided to separate. It wasn't an easy decision, but it felt like the only one left. Emma moved into her sister's house temporarily, and we agreed to share custody of the kids. I told them as gently as I could, emphasizing that this wasn't their fault, and that both their mom and I loved them more than anything. Ellie cried, asking if we would ever get back together. Max, too young to fully understand, just clung to me, his little arms wrapped tightly around my neck. It was the hardest conversation of my life. In the weeks that followed, I focused on rebuilding. I started therapy, both for myself and with the kids, and leaned on friends and family for support. It wasn't easy. There were days when the weight of it all felt unbearable, but I kept going one step at a time. Emma and I stayed civil for the sake of the kids, but our conversations were short and businesslike. She claimed she was no longer seeing Liam, but by then, it didn't matter. Whatever we had was gone, and I needed to focus on moving forward. Looking back, I realized this experience taught me more than I ever wanted to know about love, betrayal, and resilience. I learned that trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it takes more than apologies to repair it. I learned that people can change, sometimes in ways that hurt us deeply, and that it's okay to let go when the pain becomes too much to bear. Most importantly, I learned that my kids are my anchor, my reason to keep going, even when everything else feels like it's falling apart. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening. If you're going through something similar, know that you're not alone. It hurts more than I can put into words, but you will survive. And one day, you'll find peace again.